Hello everyone, it's Nita and welcome back to my channel. Today we have a very special guest.
Hi.
This is my wife, Christina, aka Bro.
It's true.
It's true, that's her. And today I thought we'd do a little bit different of a reading vlog. I am going to have Bro choose my next read. I have selected a couple books from my TBR and I made a little PowerPoint, so I'm going to show them to her and then she'll choose whichever one sounds most interesting. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds fun.
Yeah, okay.
George is here too.
Yeah, he's down there. Let's go.
Okay.
My wife picks my next book by Bro. So the first book I've selected is The Honey Witch. This is, as you can see, Lesbian Hell's Moving Castle. Need I say more? I also have an arc of this, so I need to read it at some time before it comes out, which I believe is the beginning of May. So I figured this would be as good a time as any. It's a very, heavy spring vibe as well. So I feel like now is the perfect time to read it. Next book is Dark Rise. I think I said I barely know what this is, but I know that it's gay. It's historical and a fantasy, and it's written by C.S. Picot, who's the author of the Captive Prince series. And it's narrated by the Christian Coulson, who does the first and third book in the Gentleman's Guide series. And I also already own this audiobook because I bought it from Chirp when it was on sale. So it's technically a book in my owned library that I'd like to read from eventually. Next one I have is Queen of Nothing. This is the third book in the trilogy. This is the third book in the Folk of the Air series. The first one is The Cruel Prince. I think I've talked to you about them. Yeah, and I want to try and finish more of the fantasy series that I have started, especially the ones I started last year that I meant to finish at the end of last year, but then I ended up not reading anything in December when I was planning on reading things. Yeah, I really want to finish this and know how it ends. Also because there's a spin-off duology, and the first book came out last year and the second one just came out. So I'd like to be fully caught up in the series as soon as possible.
When did you read the first two books again?
I read the first one, I want to say February of last year, and maybe the second one in the middle of last year. The next one I have is Queen of the Damned. I guess I made this a little bit while ago. I did not just read The Vampire Lestat. I read that in December, but I really do miss my man. Also, they just announced the date that the second season of the TV show is coming out. It's coming out May 12th, I think. So I'm really excited and I need to see them. I miss those boys so much. Yeah. So I'd like to continue reading the series. And the last one I chose is Starling House by Alexi Harrow. This one I barely know what this is, but I have a copy I got from Illumicrate and it's really pretty and I want to see if the book is as good as it looks on the outside. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that the special cover?
Yeah, this is a special cover. I can go show it to you in a little bit if you're so intrigued.
Alexi Harrow sounds familiar. Did they write something else you read, right?
No.
Oh,
I think that
familiar?
I think that you found a Tumblr post of them talking about their kid. I swear that's how, maybe. And I was like, wait, I know that person.
Oh, maybe their name just stuck with me.
Yeah.
Cool. Cute. Okay.
Yeah. That's my selection. Those are my PowerPoint.
Okay.
Got Starling House, Queen of the Damned, Queen of Nothing. I know, two queens stand before me.
Yeah.
Dark Rise, and The Honey Witch. What entices you?
Okay. I have 3 I want to eliminate and 2 I want to propose.
Okay, I'm ready for it.
I think I'm going to eliminate Dark Rise and Starling House first, just because it looks like you already own both of them, right? So you just have them whenever, and it sounds. I think Dark Rise is the start of a new series, right?
Yes, the second one came out, but I don't own that one.
Okay. Maybe I would hold off on those because they're I guess a fresh start that you can put off for later, maybe if you want a fresh start. In third place, I would put Queen of the Damned, since you did read The Vampire Lestat somewhat recently, so it's kind of fresh in your mind.
Okay.
After that, I would say The Queen of Nothing. That's also a trilogy you've been working on, and it's a little bit, I guess that makes more sense to be in third place, but I feel like you should also finish this trilogy maybe. And in first place, I would say the Honey Witch, honestly, because you have to read it and you have to write a review in the next 2 months. I'm it's March already. So that when that one was first, I was oh, well, you have to read that one. There's a deadline.
That is
but
true.
It also sounds very cute. And we've been thinking about Hell's Moving Castle a lot.
True.
So I would recommend that one.
Okay, well, thank you. We have our winner. And yeah, I guess I'll read this. And the rest of the reading vlog will be me giving my thoughts on this book as I go through it. So,
thanks.
Yes, thank you for appearing on my channel, Bro.
Of course. Thanks.
Say goodbye to the people.
Bye. Thanks for having me. I love you.
George, do you have anything to say? He's not even on camera. Wait, let me point it down.
Yeah.
George, say goodbye.
Georgie.
silent for the first time in his life.
Yeah, really.
Okay, so I wasn't intending for this to be like a wrap-up of the first book, but I ended up reading like the entirety of The Honey Witch before I could do an update. So let's first talk about what this book is about, and then I'll go into my review. The Honey Witch by Sidney J. Shields is a Regency-era fantasy romance that follows our main character, Marigold, who is dreading her predictable life of trying to find a husband and settling down, when she gets a visit from her grandmother, who tells her that they are a family of witches, and that Marigold, as the eldest daughter, is able to come and live with her on the island of Innisfree and become a honey witch. Marigold is like, of course, this is like the solution to all of my problems. But her grandmother warns her that their family line has a curse put on them, so they can only have their magic or true love, and as long as she's a honey witch, no one will be able to love her. That curse gets put to the test when Marigold meets Lottie, who is this young woman who happens to be best friends with Marigold's childhood best friend, August. She gets introduced through him, and Lottie is very skeptical of Marigold's magical abilities. So Marigold sets out to try and prove to Lottie that magic is real, and then they start to fall for each other in the process. Let's start off by talking about all the things I really liked in this book. This book overall is like a cottagecore checklist of all the vibes. They're picking flowers, they're running through meadows, they're swimming in magical ponds, they're doing beekeeping and making herbal remedies. It really has it all. I was really enjoying the early section of the book of Marigold and her grandmother living on the island of Innisfree, and her like training and all like the accompanying cottagecore elements I mentioned. I feel like the bond that Marigold and her grandmother had was really sweet. I like the setup of the overall like big bad of the story going to be the fact that the Honey Witches have these kind of like rivalry with another group of witches called the Ash Witches. And the Ash Witch of Meredith's grandmother's generation is the one that put the curse on their family line. They also make a note early on that in this world, women can just like make themselves have children using magic. Because Meredith's grandmother had this curse put on her, she never like found a man to settle down with and have kids with. She just used her own magic to have Meredith's mom, which I obviously knew was going to get implemented later in Marigold and her love interest Lottie having a kid. And I don't know, I kind of just like a like magical pregnancy element in a story, particularly when it involves like helping like a gay couple have a like biological child. However, speaking of gay stuff, I was very like confused because I kind of assumed from the intro the reason Marigold like was so distraught about having to be forced into the role of a wife and mother was because she was a closeted lesbian. But then later on she's talking to her best friend August, and it's mentioned that she has courted women in the past. And both August and Marigold's younger brother, Frankie, are openly dating men. And it's not often that I'm, like, disappointed by a lack of homophobia in a story, but it made me, like, feel like it muddled Marigold's motivations. Because why is she so mad about having to, like, marry this guy if she can just as easily marry a woman? I feel like it would have been better if the rules for the world were set out a little bit early on in the story. And then have it be that, like, the theming of why Marigold wants to leave is more so about her feeling, like, so strange and, like, stilted in high society, and her wanting to just kind of like run away into the woods to avoid having to put up these snobby appearances. I also feel like overall the story would have worked better if it had gone for an angle of Marigold being ace or aro, and the focus then be her like learning like, yeah, I don't need romantic love, but I do need connection, and then her finding a way to show platonic love for her friends so she wouldn't be lonely. And there's even a line in the book that's like, friendship is the greatest gift one can give. And to be honest, I would have preferred that over like the awful romance that she has with Lottie. I didn't really like Lottie for the majority of this book, and I hated the romance even more. I think this just kind of has proven to me and my tastes that I really don't like the trend of like overly antagonistic love interests, at least when it pertains to like two people meeting for the first time on page, one person being really rude to the other one, and then the other person still being very attracted to them. In my eyes, Marigold already had a lot to deal with plot-wise in regarding the curse and the Ash Witch Versa coming to threaten Innisfree, that we didn't really need this like semi-enemies to lovers plotline going on as well. It just made me think how much more August and Marigold had like way more chemistry, and I honestly would have preferred him or Lottie with his personality as the romantic lead instead. That being said, the more like spicy scenes, even without having like outright smut, were very well paced and have like enough charge that I could forget the issues I had with the romance beforehand. I feel like if this is what Sidney J. Shields can write in a scene where I thought the characters had like zero chemistry beforehand, I'd be interested in reading another book from her where I actually am rooting for the romance to go through. I also can only very vaguely see the like Howl's Moving Castle comparisons. It's kind of like the character of Marigold is both Howl and Sophie combined, because she has somewhat of the personality traits of Sophie, a lot of her like kind of fear and like rejection of herself as being the oldest daughter, but then she obviously has like the more magical powers of Howl. but I don't really feel like at any point in the story she ever feels like she's unlovable. This also goes to like another point that I often have in like why I don't really connect with a lot of FF romances, is if I'm not like attracted or can understand why the main character's attracted to their love interest, I just don't really want to root for them, and I just overall don't enjoy the romance. And I just like didn't like Lottie for all of the things I mentioned before, and I just like couldn't really understand why Marigold was attracted to her either. And yeah, I also feel like some of this book was maybe like ill-marketed based off what I had seen on like Instagram. We could talk a long time about like the kind of like forced Instagram marketing that authors have to do for their books, and just like how books are marketed to audiences now overall. But yeah, I just kind of feel like I was a little bit let down in the direction that this book went. So overall, I'm going to give this a 3 stars. I think it's good for someone else, and I don't think it was bad. There was a lot of sections that I did really like, especially in the beginning, but it just overall moved in a direction I didn't like. I felt like the ending was very rushed, and like that was the conflict I was more focused on, and it overall just wasn't really the book for me. Even though on paper there was a lot of elements I thought I would definitely like. So that is it for this book. Because I did end up reading this entire book before I was able to do any like updates for the vlog, I think I am going to read whatever the second choice that my wife had for my like TBR. I actually don't remember what that second book was. I have to edit this and the intro before I figure that out. So I'll come at you in the near future when I have that book selected and hopefully have like a progress update for you. Had to make a matcha this morning for strength. But I thought I would give you my first update for the second book I'm reading for this vlog. Upon analyzing the footage, I realized the second choice that my wife had led from my like PowerPoint was to read The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black, which I'm very excited for because this is a series I've wanted to continue for a long time. I'm currently listening to the audiobook and I'm around an hour into it. This audiobook is relatively short. I think that the physical version is only like 300 pages long, so the audiobook is only around like 9 to 10 hours. I can't give a ton of backstory in terms of like what's happening, since this is like the third and final book in the series. But overall, The Queen of Nothing is the third book in the Folk of the Air series, which is a YA fantasy that follows our main character Jude Duarte, who is a human that has been raised in the Fae world, and basically chronicles her very tumultuous relationship with this one Fae prince named Cardin. My initial thoughts in starting up this series again is I did not realize how much I missed this world and like the characters until I started reading again. I really love the audiobooks and the narrator, Caitlin Kelly. I feel like she's such a good audiobook narrator. I feel like my enjoyment of the audiobook is partially because of her and also because of just like Holly Black's writing style. I feel like I become so much more engaged in like the sword fighting action scenes than I have been in reading other books. Because sometimes when I read action scenes in books, I either read through them a little too quickly or I find like trouble following exactly what's going on. But I feel like the ones in Holly Black's books are just so like intense and really, really well paced. Again, I'm still kind of in like the early stages of the book, so there isn't a ton that's happened so far, but I'll definitely give you more updates as I make progress. I do have a lot of housework I want to do later today, so I think I'm going to plug in and listen to the audiobook while I do that. So hopefully come back with you a little bit later today when I have more of an update. Okay, it's been a couple days and I wanted to give you another update in my progress of reading The Queen of Nothing. I'm currently a little over halfway. I'm in book 2 and I'm about to start chapter 19. I have a couple things to say that are like slightly tangentially spoiler related, so I'm gonna put like a little spoiler warning up on the screen when I start talking about that. The first comment I have to make is just like the everything going on with Jude and Cardin. I feel like this entire series is you waiting for them to like be on the same side and in love and being like the badass power couple that they are meant to be. Also, for like every time that Cardin calls Jude my wife, which is a lot, I'm just like screaming, crying, throwing up. I'm not really like a Cardin girly. I know there's like a lot of people that consider him like the ultimate book boyfriend. I'm more so a let Jude Duarte have everything that she desires and deserves, which includes having the hottest piece of ass in Elfhame as her husband. I also wanted to talk about the like slow buildup over the course of the series as Maddock as the main villain, because he is such a good character. Like, I feel like we instantly know he's bad news from like the prologue chapter where he kills Jude's parents. But he's also been Jude and Terrence's surrogate father for most of their lives, and pretty much everything he's done has been in service of them getting stronger and being able to survive in the Fae world. And every time Jude outsmarts him, he's more so like impressed with her wit over being outright mad, and you can tell that he does still love her and wants her to be on his side. Anyway, so far I've just been enjoying this book as much as I did the previous 2 in the series. I feel like this book is taking me a long time to read because it's so like dense and packed with a lot of like emotionality. These books are like deceptively short. I think this one's only like 300 pages and the audiobook is a little under 10 hours long, but there's just so much like of a heavy emotional weight to everything going on that it takes like me a really long time to get through it. But yes, I'm enjoying it so far. I hopefully can finish it in the next couple days, so I'll be able to end off this vlog talking about it. So I'll come back and talk to you guys when that ends up happening. So I have now finished Queen of Nothing, and I wanted to give my like final update and review for this book. I think overall I'm going to give this one 4 stars, which is a little lower than I gave the previous 2 books in the series, since I gave both The Cruel Prince and The Wicked King 4.5 stars. I think, honestly, in retrospect, I could have given The Wicked King also a 4 star, because I really feel like The Cruel Prince is the best of the series, or at the very least is the one I liked the most. I feel like that one overall had the most scenes where I was like completely blown away and really surprised by everything that was happening. And I don't know if that's because I went in with kind of low expectations, since I wasn't really enjoying the first like quarter of the book, that the rest of the book being so good like really took me by surprise. I don't know, I just feel like for Queen of Nothing, there were definitely a lot of scenes that I liked, but I do kind of feel like this book is a little bit more rushed, or like maybe like not as much happens that really like surprised me. I don't know, even though there was a lot that I really enjoy in Jude and Cardan's relationship, I do feel like Jude kind of like forgiving Cardan for a lot of things he did, and her like completely pivoting from completely hating him at the start of the book to then being in love with him by the end. I mean, like, I know it's been building up over the course of the entire series, but I kind of felt like there should have been more scenes in the middle of them bonding. There definitely were a couple of them, and I really enjoyed those parts, especially whenever Cardan like interacts with any of Jude's friends. It kind of shows that he's trying to be a better person and to connect with the people that Jude also finds important, which is obviously a good trait for any boyfriend or husband to have, as opposed to only caring about Jude and being like completely evil whenever she's not around. In talking about like the Folk of the Air series overall, I do feel like these books are definitely worth it to check out. I really like the audiobooks, which I've talked about multiple times on my channel. I think Caitlin Kelly is a really powerful audiobook narrator. She does really good voices for all of the different characters, and you can really tell like the emotional intensity of the scenes. But I also just think Holly Black is a really amazing writer. I feel like Jude is such a great main character. I feel like she has a great dichotomy of being like incredibly smart, calculating, and like perfectly in line with the world that she grew up in, but at the same time still has a little bit of like that teenage angst, so she doesn't really read that much older than her character actually is, and it gives like a very like authentic teen experience. I feel like she's quite similar to Katniss in that way, in that she's always constantly problem solving and like going through so many different scenarios in her head to figure out what is the best path for her to go forward. I feel like in some ways these books are like technically 5 stars in that they are just so well written, because everything really just like has a perfect place in like the overall flow of the story. But I feel like for me there is a little bit of a disconnect in like the level of enjoyment, just because so much of the book is like Jude suffering. It feels like she's constantly on the offensive trying to deal with all of the problems that are being thrown her way, that sometimes there aren't enough scenes like in between to give her like a breather and to be able to relax. I don't know if the like short story collection that came after these 3 books has more of those like fluffy elements. I probably will eventually check it out, because I do also want to read the sequel duology that came out. But yes, overall, I guess the series is more of like a 4.5 star series for me. But I definitely recommend checking it out if you're interested. So that is going to be it for this video. Thank you guys, as always, so much for watching. I feel like this vlog is a little bit all over the place, because I did end up having to film it over the course of like a longer period of time than I initially had hoped for. But I definitely would love to do another vlog like this in the future of having my wife choose my TBR. I'll probably end up doing it where she has to like just choose randomly as opposed to ones I like pre-picked for her. But I thought this would be like the easiest barrier to entry for her to participate on my channel. And overall, I do want her to show up in more of my videos in the future. Anyway, that's going to be it from me today. If you guys enjoyed this video, consider liking, commenting, or subscribing if you aren't already. Consider following me on the Storygraph if you'd like to see my reading updates in real time. Also consider following my Bookstagram, which is linked in the description. I'm trying to post a lot more frequently on there now, so it would be really cool if you guys were able to follow me there as well. But yes, that is it for me today. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!